Hi, and welcome to this afternoon's interview. My name's Jeff Stewart. I'm a singer, singing teacher, and choral conductor, and I run They Shall Laugh and Sing. And I'm here this afternoon with my dear friend and colleague, Mark Llewellyn Evans, the founder, CEO, and general everything of ABC of Opera. Tell me, Mark, how did you get going with ABC of Opera, and what's it all about?
Sheer madness, always is, isn't it? An idea is always sheer madness. I had an opera festival in Sark in the Channel Islands, and I wanted to have something for the children, something that was different. Because I've always felt that going into school and singing an opera aria, telling a story and leaving, doesn't really have a long impact. So I came up with the idea of ABC of Opera, the Academy of Barmy Composers. So telling the story through the foibles and the magnificence of the composers that made this music last for so long and have such an impact on us. So finding out amazing facts like Mozart was autistic, but obsessed with flatulence. So nearly every story that Mozart wrote home to his mum and dad had a little farting story in. Then Rossini was known as the king of the dining table, so we call him Tortellini Rossini. So each character, each composer, I found something unique about them. And we've got Luckless Lully, the first French composer who hit his foot with a beating stick on the I think it was the opening night of his opera Daphne. And so the list goes on and on, but everyone has got a little foible. And with that, the children instantly bought into the Academy of Barmy Composers and wanted to go there. And now, nearly 10 years on, a lot of children later, uh, we're being asked, can we go to the Academy of Barmy Composers? So we're just looking in all different ways how we can expand and develop the project.
Fantastic. So instead of, I mean, I've been doing when I was singing much more, I did education and outreach programs with various opera companies, the Royal Opera, ENO, English Touring Opera, which went to lots of schools, and but generally worked on one opera, and I was watching last night the Ken Robinson video, a TED talk that he did in 2006, when he was saying that music is at the bottom of the list, just slightly above dance, in terms of what people are learning in school, and the distressing thing is nothing has changed, and all these very worthy, very well-meaning outreach programs from opera houses really haven't made that much difference. But you're dealing with the whole thing, people with opera as a whole, with all the composers and their foibles and what made them compose those pieces. Is that right?
Absolutely, and I think that's what the children relate to. So we're working with a lot of ALN children, additional learning needs. We're working with traveller children. We're working with mainstream schools. But unless you can have ownership of anything, why do you want to learn it? Why do you want to be part of the journey? And I think that's what ABC is very different about. It's not telling the story on playing a piece of music. All that is great. And when the music services or the opera companies feel that we're trying to step on their toes, we're not at all. I'm trying to enthuse the child in a way that this becomes a norm to put on classical music or any other kind of music. Academy of Barmy Composers could have Ed Sheeran in it. It doesn't matter. But I think unless we go back in time, without the past, we don't have the future. And when we tell the children that, they want to learn more. I think biggest thing of all, there was a director of education who said the most amazing thing about ABC is that the children ask to learn more. And the traveller children down in Pembrokeshire that we've been working with, there was a fantastic child, and he said at the end, I'm going to have to learn to read, aren't I? Because he said, I need to find out what they do at the Academy of Barmy Composers. And those kind of things, that's priceless. I mean,
Yeah.
isn't that what an education is? And you were saying about Ken Robinson. I was very lucky enough that we did a Zoom together before he passed away. And the whole thing was every child is different, but what creativity does is ignite the imagination. And it does not mean for 1 minute you're going to go on the stage, and it doesn't mean for 1 minute that you're going to be a violinist or whatever. You don't have to be in the creative arts, but unless you have something to ignite, then what do? We sit, we don't know. How can we want to have something? How can we have aspiration for something unless we know about it? And
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing. And it's okay to be different, and it's okay to fall over. And we tell ourselves that all the time. But, you know, the additional learning leads, I have learned so much from them that when I did a song for Wales with 12,500 kids, a lot of them couldn't, they were non-verbal. So when I got to the school, you know what, they'd found a different way around it. They'd found to sign it, to dance it, to whatever they wanted, to shake a rattle. It didn't matter how big or how small, but they were part of the story. And without them, the story wasn't the same. So
Yeah.
it is very different. And I think it's a great question, because lots of people think it's another project that's the same, or it is simply opera. Well, we're empowering children in the belief, you know, our mission statement is another ABC, but it's anybody can. And that is really important for them to realize that.
How did you arrive at that?
We arrived at that from an incredible autistic lad in a school not far from here in Church Village. And he was sitting in the wheelchair, and the head teacher told me he won't be able to touch the props, the velvet coat, the wigs, because that'll set off his autism. I turned round, and he was sitting in the wheelchair with a wig on, with a feather boa on, with a velvet jacket on. And he shouted at me, he went, Mark, 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 you do know you've got the name of the project wrong. And I always have lots of banter with them. I said, what you talking about? It's my project. I can call it what I want. Yeah, but you got it wrong. The Academy of Barmy Composers is where they live, he said. But surely you should call it Anybody Can. And I then went, why? And he said, well, you've just told us Beethoven could do it and he was deaf. Mozart could do it and he was autistic. So-and-so, so-and-so. And the list goes on. And he said, if you look around the room, all of us are different, but together we can do anything. And I just thought,
fantastic,
amazing, amazing. We were all there in tears, you know, from joy, you know, and not patronizing tears at all, and going, yeah, why don't we think like that sometimes? Why do we think that everything has to be done in the same way for every child or every adult? Because it's just not going to work like that.
Absolutely. So let's take a quick look. If I can manage the technology, we're going to take a quick look at one of your workshops and see what happens. So I'm going to be sharing a screen here, and we should be going in here. No, that's not the Academy of Barmy. That's not the one.
I hope you don't open the wrong thing, Jeffrey.
I hope I don't do. That could be seriously bad. Okay, so let's try. Let's try this. This is what I'm after. This is what I'm after. So here we go.
Told them right at the beginning, we've got a company coming in, we're going to be spending the next 10 weeks with them, and we're going to be learning about opera. And you physically saw their faces dropped, but it is actually brought it to life for them.
My favourite thing was putting together the songs, getting to perform in front of the adults, and just seeing their reaction. Yeah. All of the props and learning about the story. I enjoyed when we all had to sing the songs and all the little games and stuff. Mostly the painting, the acting. I like doing the acting. I just loved acting how it was funny, especially some of the words I said on there as well.
Majority of the children are not natural performers, but sort of as the weeks have gone on, we've seen a huge increase. The fact that the children will just get up and open their mouths and sing, and that is just a huge step forward for these children.
Because I got out of my comfort zone a bit, singing in front of everyone, it was just really enjoyable.
Especially for delivering expressive arts, and if you're somebody who maybe isn't too confident about that, it was a really wonderful experience.
I'll just stop that share for the moment. So, I mean, you can see in people's faces, and not only the kids, but the teachers as well, how much they're getting from this, and how different it's making life. And for my part, the whole idea with my company, They Shall Laugh and Sing, is that I want to see that look on people's faces when they sing, because if they're not doing that, they're not singing. And it brings to life a whole new whole new resonance, a whole new load of colors that people don't know are there. And I listened to an interesting thing this morning where this guy was saying, from the age of until we're at the age of 7, we are entirely governed by our subconscious mind, and all these things go in, and we just accept them as being the way things are, as being true. And actually, it's only after 7 that you get to make judgments. But in that time up to 7, you've learned what is acceptable, what isn't acceptable. And for many people, actually performing, being a little bit extrovert is not acceptable. And you have to relearn that, and to see what you're doing. I mean, we had a woman at Milton Abbey last week who she came for the first time 6 years ago, and she couldn't actually sing everything, and she actually asked if it was okay not to take part, and we just said to her, just you sing the bits you want to sing and sit down for the bits that you don't want to sing. And she was okay with that, and in her nervous way she did that. This year, 6 years later, she sang a solo and volunteered to sing a solo, and that's the sort of, and that's what I'm seeing in your clip there. That's absolutely wonderful, and you're covering much more of the curriculum than just music, but presumably at a time when music is being cut in schools, something like what you're doing is massively important and will cost the schools much less, presumably.
Yeah, there's all of that. But I mean, there's stories in that particular video. There was a lad who had come back from lockdown, who had come back as an elected mute because the whole thing of lockdown had he'd closed up. He'd found it difficult to go back to school, but he eventually got back to school, but he wouldn't speak. And so we went in. That school was very lucky. They found enough money for us to go in for 5 Friday mornings. And about the 4th Friday, he came up to me and he asked if he could sing, not speak, but he wanted to sing. And I said, why? He said, because when you sing, you tell us a story and you make us happy and you make us sad. You can move our emotions. And the most eloquent, but he could tell that he was finding it so hard. He hadn't spoken in a year, and out come these words. And on the last session, he actually asked me if he could. They painted a picture of what they felt the ABC was and their emotions to the story that they'd learnt. He asked if he could unveil the picture and tell the parents what their journey had been.
How do you keep a dry eye in the house?
Well, even now recalling it, because look, you're saying about the money thing. Things are really tough. It's hard because the schools haven't got the money. Then we're still a tiny operation, and I want to go out there and make as big a difference as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I've set up a charity arm as well. So with Coutts Bank, we've set up a charity arm that people can put in. Then we can get some gifted, and we can help the school. So what I'm trying to do, instead of the school having to pay £600 for us to go in for a full day, they will find £200, and I'll find businesses to support, or companies, whoever, or an individual. And that seems to be working, but we need to do it on a big scale, because that child's story is not unique. There's lots of those stories everywhere. And there's lots of places, when I went to speak about this in the House of Lords, the big thing that I was told was aspiration in the poor areas isn't there. But I don't think it's just the poor areas. There's so many areas that we don't get our voice heard sometimes. And when we get older, it happens to us. You're doing almost the opposite end of the spectrum to me. But it's the same story. And unless we feel wanted, heard, I understand why people get depressed, get fed up, feel small, feel not part of it all. So, but I think the stories go on and on. But when they share those stories, and when there's no idea then that opera is for the posh, there is no idea that the classical music is for the posh, there is no idea, there's no concept, that none of this is attainable and accessible for them all. Suddenly it's like, this is our story. And that, I think, has been amazing. I said earlier we did a song with 12,000 kids. It was the first time anywhere that somebody has attempted to take out bilingual song. So in Wales, you've either got Welsh medium schools or you've got English medium schools. I wanted to include both. And I knew I was going to get some that would say, well, we're not coming unless it's all in Welsh, and we're not coming unless it's all in English. And I thought, we're a nation that has two languages. Either come on board or don't. But we had a school in Pembrokeshire that had never sung in Welsh. We had schools up in North Wales that never sang in English. And then they came together and they were Zooming together and learning stories about different parts of Wales and why Pembrokeshire doesn't have a use of the Welsh language, but why North Wales does. So they were learning about their country and their heritage in a completely different way. And that wouldn't have come about if it hadn't been through song and through music, and then feeling that they were all on the same playing field. From learning the song together. So the list goes on and on. But yeah, as you said, there's history, there's geography, there's maths, there's everything within it. And there's online resources. So then after we've been to a school, the teachers have over 150 resources to continue that expressive arts journey, and all that is lined up to the curriculum.
Yeah. But any one of those stories that you've told is absolutely priceless. And to see those things happening, I know people would want to help. So how much are you looking to raise?
Well, I've put down 15,000 because I would love to feel that there was a support mechanism. And I think by the end of the year, because we are taking over, or we're not taking over, we're expanding Welsh National Opera's outreach programme. So we're going into areas that they haven't been before. So they've put a small amount, but I'm looking that if 20 people could put that small amount in, we could expand across the board. And partnerships are so important. So I put 15,000. If we could get that or more, then we're able to take the pressure off. I'd love to be able to go into more parts of England. We've been to some schools in North London, some schools in Liverpool, but I'd love to have a proper footprint where we can train people up and have ABC doing its thing, because there are other projects, a part of the arm, that are really exciting that I want to make sure that we don't miss the boat on, or we don't lose. You know, we're talking about a stage show, a proper stage show. We're talking about TV. But actually, if you're juggling small amounts of money, actually those pieces get left behind because you're just trying to keep swimming all the time. So anybody out there that wants to make a difference, that wants the next generation to feel that they are superheroes, which they should, then please get in touch.
Well, we'll put the link to your fundraiser in the comments under here. Don't be put off by the fact that it's got a load of running legs. It's just one of those things that you can't change on Just Giving. But for me, I look at the state of opera and all the people within classical music who are losing their funding, losing their jobs, and it's awful to watch. But for the price of, if everybody put in the price of a cup of coffee, or a price of a pint of lager or a glass of wine instead of drinking it, that would put so much towards what you're doing. And actually, that's the thing. We have to find different ways of building up our audience. To me, we've got the whole of classical music wrong in this country, because nothing really happens on a local level. And in other countries like Germany, every town has its own orchestra, its own opera house, its own ballet, its own theatre company. And we don't have that anymore. And I'm not sure that we ever had it. And we need to get something different to what we had before. And you're that something different, as far as I can see. And I think if we want to build something, with the price of a cup of coffee donated to what you're doing will help our own future.
It'd be amazing. Look, some people have been incredibly generous, put £200 in. Somebody else has put, £50 in. Somebody a fiver. Look, if everybody put £2 or £3 in, and it went on a big scale, we could do amazing things. Come back to us and go, I'm going to put £200 in, but I want it specifically to go to our school, and we will guarantee that happens.
Yeah.
There's a builder up in the Rhondda who said his kids came back and the impact was so great. He wants to fund 10 schools. He's waiting for some money to come in to help us. So lots of people are juggling, but I know that when the kids get empowered and when they feel they can stand up, they make a presentation, do this, do that, all those things are so important for the future. And, you know, I think with classical music that goes wrong is that we need to give it ownership from day one. And we need also, it needs to be commercial. It needs to feel that there is, the Arts Council should be funded, absolutely, but not entirely.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't put an opera on or a piece of music that's also going to get bums on seats, there is something wrong.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm passionate. You and I put concerts together for years and years and years. You've got to give people what they want. But it's interesting. I was speaking to a friend, and she said in Australia, the ballet system is done a little bit like we're doing with ABC. So from day one, the little girls are taken through the system, then they're taken to the ballet, and actually ballet has no pretentiousness to it at all in Australia.
Yeah. Fantastic.
They never did that with opera.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's not just opera, but it's opening that door so that we can, you know, I think it's something like 2 million people listen to Classic FM, but don't go and hear a classical concert live because they feel it's for the wealthy and for people above them. And that has to stop earlier on.
Yeah.
You know, I love, now my daughter always makes me laugh. There's kids walking down the street in Cardiff and they'll go, "That's the opera man."
Yeah.
You know, I love that whole idea. And he's silly and he's naughty and he tells farting stories and he tells us this and he tells us that. But you know what? All that's broken down. Then the next thing, maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, if that program has worked, then we take them to the opera.
Yeah, absolutely.
Drip feed those concerts in, and we make it accessible, and it's part of our makeup of our furniture around us.
Yeah. You mentioned a few minutes ago your stage show, so I'm going to share a clip of your stage show, if I may. I think this is something that will really excite people. Here we go. Okay.
I love us on stage, cooking and eating, cooking and eating, cooking and eating, and cooking and... Welcome to the ABC, the Academy of Balmy Composers. Any food that is covered in pesto makes me right fast and presto. Bravo Rossini, ring Prestissimo, prestissimo, prestissimo.
I'm a million times more spiteful. Yes, we have a baddie of baddies, and a part of this vehicle is frightful. Well,
I curse for the girl, take me program.
Give us an A, give us a B, give us a C,
give me a C.
It's the ABC.
The what?
The ABC. The what? The ABC.
Bye.
Mark is sensational. I don't think there's much more we can add. You can see your enthusiasm, your passion for it, and actually, I think it's down to people. Oh, I don't know how that's happening. I'm playing it again somehow. But anyway, I think that's.
Rydyn ni wedi bod yn
just hang on a second.
Grand yn Abertawe yn gwylio Abaca o opera.
Okay, so there had to be an embarrassing technical hitch, but look, your passion is evident. What you're doing is obviously having a tremendous effect on people. So many congratulations on that. Everybody who's watching this, please click the link below. And in the words of Bob Geldof, give us your money. Do something. If you love classical music, if you love opera, if you just want to see kids enthused, if you want to see people taught to be creative and gain that extra bit out of life, click the link and let's put some hustle behind this muscle, as it were. And Mark, congratulations. It's such an amazing project. And thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for doing it and for doing this interview today. It's great to have you on. I'm going to stop the recording there and we'll get this posted. But thank you very much for being on.
Oh, cheers, mate.